Welcome to the Business Success Strategies with Adrian McLean. This is a 30-minute interview with successful business people who have been able to achieve amazing results with growing a business. Business Success Strategies is proudly sponsored by The Speaker's Practice and Jan2019, helping business owners with marketing and promotions with a specialty with public speaking. Enjoy today's Business Success Strategies interview.
Thanks for joining us for this Business Success Strategies interview. The aim of this interview is to find out from highly successful experts approaches for marketing and growing a business. We're thrilled to have Dan Cordle, the video director from the film practice, with us today. Hi, Dan.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Dan is helping entrepreneurs produce amazing video. Dan helps public speakers, entrepreneurs and actors produce great on-camera performances. Well, Dan, that is so important. How we look on video, it's the number one thing.
True. It's been a joy. You know, the entrepreneurs that I've met tend to be very enthusiastic people, very curious. As a lot, I would say they tend to be optimistic, and that describes actors very well too. They're also very imaginative, that's an asset if you're an actor.
Yes.
So it's been great. I've been having a great time.
Oh, fantastic! Yes. Well, there's got to be a lot of creativity and imagination with being an entrepreneur, and of course that's the actor's field, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
Well, let's get started with the first question. So, where should an entrepreneur start when wanting to create a video? And especially if they want to look good on screen.
I think the best way to start is to reflect on what kind of an environment you want to welcome people into. Now, when most people think about making videos for their business, they think of it as something that they're going to do, right, that will have an impact on others in some way, that will perhaps motivate others to become engaged with them in a business way. And one of the challenges with that kind of thinking is it can lead you to making videos that are supposed to do something to other people. So, and whenever you try to do something to other people, there's always a mystery as to whether or not they want that thing done to them.
Yes.
So I like to think of it more in terms of, let's say that you're having people over for dinner. And a great thing to think about if you're doing that is to reflect on what kind of an experience you want them to have when they come over. Like what kind of food do you want to prepare for them, and how do you want to arrange your space? So when they come in, they have a particular kind of experience that enables you and your guests to have a lovely experience and a deep connection. And that's a great place to start. Usually when people think about having people come over for dinner, they don't think of it in terms of, what am I going to do to these people?
No.
Think of it that way. You think of it more in terms of hospitality.
Yes.
Like, what kind of experience am I going to share with these folks? After all, they're coming into my space. So I think that's a great way to begin. And I think that's a really great thing to have in mind as you proceed, because as you grow in your videos, they will change, but if you have this idea in mind of being welcoming to other people, it makes the entire process a joy instead of being this onerous thing.
Because it is, as you say, an experience, isn't it? So people go and watch a video and they go through the experience of seeing the content in the way it's presented. So the person creating the video has to make a good experience
I think so. I think that's very much so. And the truth is that, in this day and age, quite a few people are using video for their business. There's a lot of video out there. And everything that we see has an impact on us, whether we're conscious of that impact or not. And so even if you're just passing by an experience that you witness, it has an impact on you. So, when you're looking at a video, it's going to have an impact on you.
Yes.
And as the creator of that video, you want to take care, with what the impact is, basically. So, I liken that, again, I love to make analogies, but I liken that to having a restaurant, let's say. So if you have a restaurant, you're in the business of serving prepared food, and in exchange for that prepared food, you get money. But if that's the only thing that you have in mind, it's going to be very difficult to distinguish your restaurant from any other restaurant. So, you have to decide what kind of an experience you want your guests to have. And let's say that you want to make a romantic restaurant. So, you're going to want to carefully plan your menu, right? So that it's full of a wonderful taste experience, right? We experience that experience on the level of taste, right? You're going to want to light it in a way and make so that the lighting creates almost a tactile experience. You're going to want the decor, right, to be supportive of romance. And if you accomplish that, then what you're doing is you're not only a business that makes prepared food. You're a business that encourages feelings of love, right, or between people. That is an environment that people go where they either want to enjoy the love they have or they want to discover love in their lives. That's a completely different way of doing things, So I think when we make videos for our business, we have to think of it that way. Okay, so I'm providing this service. Let's say you're a business coach, so I'm going to provide really useful business information that's going to help your business grow. But you're also going to have these other experiences that are going to enrich your life and make the tools that you get, let's say, from this coaching so much more impactful. Right? So that's what really gets me excited about helping people. It's really helping them to be more fully who they are and to bring their value to their business through these visual experiences.
Fantastic. So Dan, what are some of the important items that need addressing when we are speaking in front of the camera? Because there's so many different considerations when creating a video. What are your, top 5 things that we really need to be thinking about before doing a video, I suppose?
Well, I wish I had a written list. I'm going to tell the top of my head. I think you want to be open and available to people. You want to be welcoming of people when they watch your video. It's much like letter writing. I feel blessed to have come from the days of letters. Before, the nature of my childhood was that I traveled a lot, and back in those days, international calls were so expensive that the only way to keep in touch, with your friends as a kid, was by writing them letters. And so I would pour my heart, into these letters, and I would feel like I was with the person, and I would wait in great anticipation for their letters. And when I would get their letters, I would read them and reread them, and then I would write my own. And that was time spent with each other, even though we were in different places and in different times. So when you make a video for somebody, ideally you're with that person as you're making the video. You're not, and your relationship with a camera is the same as it might be, let's say, with a real person who's there, in much the same way that your imagination flies to people when you write them letters. You're writing a letter, but you're with them. And so when we make videos, we want to be with these people. we want to reach them. And the interest, the attempt to reach people, as opposed, overcomes any kinds of resistance that we might have to being seen, or being judged. A lot of people are a little camera shy, and they worry about, on some level, about how they'll be perceived. And that can make, it challenging to be oneself and to really take care of other people or provide them with services if we're feeling self-conscious in that way. And so, we have to explore organic ways of really overcoming those fears, and so that it enables us to really be with people and help others. So I've strayed from any kind of a list, but I would say that you want to really connect, with people, and understand that even though you may be talking to a lens, you're actually, somebody's going to watch your video, and they are going to be seeking a connection with you, right? They will benefit from a connection with you. We all know this is true, because there are many times when we might watch a video that is not connected to any kind of interest we might have for our business, and yet there's something that reaches us. This is why we go see films, right? Because there's something about the story or the people that we identify with deeply. It reaches us. And we can lay that down to the performance or presentation of the person on camera, that they have actually bridged the gap of time. They have bridged the technology with a kind of a personal, emotional intention that enables them to be with us, even though they're not physically with us.
I love that analogy you gave of the letter writing and video, because you can, through letters, have a very deep personal connection, and it's the same with video. You're talking to people via the camera, and it's a similar experience where we're there but we're not there, I suppose.
Yes, it is. I was speaking with a client who, in her profession, her name is Dorothy Holterman, and she helps people write books. And we were talking about video and about marketing, and how the point of all of this is really to get in the same space with other people. To get it creates opportunities for meeting people in person. So that's what our videos are doing. They're creating those opportunities, for us to actually be with people. If you can't be with somebody, it's wonderful to do a Zoom call like we're doing. If you can't do a Zoom call, it's lovely to have a telephone call. If you can't, talk on the phone, you can send letters, and all of those things create opportunities for us to get together. So I know if you come here, we will have, tea or coffee, and it will be great.
Well, it'd be lovely to meet you in person, Dan, one day. Oh, okay. So what are some of the things that we need to be aware of that are distracting? And this is easy to have happen because I completely forgot about my lighting this morning.
That's totally fine. It's there are things technically that can be distracting. There are ways of using those distractions, but let's just focus on the problems of distraction. So something that I see is oftentimes when people make videos, particularly people who are making videos on their iPhones or sometimes on their computers, is, they don't feel entirely comfortable looking at the camera, or that doesn't feel like a real experience to them. And they become distracted by their own image, because there's, you inevitably, you see yourself on the iPhone when you're making a video. And so there's a real person. It happens to be themselves. And so they wind up looking at themselves in the eyes as they're saying, they're making their video. And It's a very natural thing to do, but it's rather distracting, for the viewer, because first of all, the viewer notices that they're not being looked at, right? So there's no real there's an obstacle, right, to a deep connection already.
Yes.
It's odd to talk to somebody who never looks at you, and here you're having that problem, right? They're never looking at you, and then you go, oh, they're looking at themselves. This is really bizarre. So as you're having all these thoughts, they're talking about this thing that they're hoping to help you with, or let's say to sell you on, and you're having all these thoughts that are completely disconnected from that.
Yes.
And I've seen some people who have made who are trying to pitch some rather expensive products, do that. And I find myself going down that rabbit hole of, he's looking at himself. So that's one thing, is like, you really want to make good eye contact with the lens and not get distracted as the presenter. It doesn't mean, that you should, here's the second problem, which is kind of related to that, but it's kind of a step up the food chain, is you can get a situation where somebody is eyeballing the lens, right? But they're not actually looking at the viewer. They're just eyeballing the lens, and they kind of get locked into these headlights, you know what I mean? Where they're not actually, there's nothing really happening up here, you know what I mean? It's kind of, their eyes have met a hard surface, and they're not interacting. So you kind of get this thing happening, Right. And the truth is, when we speak to people, we often, look away. We do, So your relationship with a lens, ideally, is one where you feel very connected with the viewer, even though you have this, lens between you. So that's like a big one. That's like perhaps the biggest, because that affects on-camera performance, and ultimately on-camera performance or presence is the most important thing. You can have a video shot with an old, 1 megapixel camera, where the quality of the video itself looks awful, but the person is so present that it doesn't matter.
Yes.
You can have an extraordinarily expensive camera where the presenter is not really with you. It doesn't make a difference. So this human contact thing is like the most important. Yeah. Aside from that, lighting makes a big difference, because this is a two-dimensional reality that, I exist on video as a two-dimensional reality, so what the lighting is doing is it's helping present it as more of a three-dimensional reality. This is the same thing that painters or artists do when they're sketching. They shade the painting to make it, let's say if they're doing a cup, right? They shade the cup to make it look, rounder, so that it presents more of a three-dimensional reality. We like three dimensions. So good lighting makes a big difference. A level camera, sometimes you see that the backgrounds are really askew, you know what I mean? And that can be hard to avoid, but you want to try to make sure your camera is level, so that the world isn't tilted, There's actually a name for a tilted camera in film production. It's called a Dutch angle. And the Dutch angle is used to create feelings in the audience that something is off kilter, that something is askew. They're hoping to create an emotional reaction in the audience of something not being quite right, being odd, right? So, and that's what happens. So if your camera is askew, if it has a Dutch angle, there's a chance that your audience is going to feel like, wait a minute, what's going on here? There's something askew. I would say framing is really important. Like, generally speaking, it's a good idea to follow the rule of thirds, which is, if you don't know what that is, if you imagine that there are two lines, or like, let's say one line here and there's one line here, right? I have to look at myself to do this. And there's a line, there are lines here, right? Okay. So we have these lines here, here, and here, right? So here's a third, right? Right here, and here's a third. If I put myself over here, right? Your eye will naturally goes to this spot, right? If I go over here, same thing kind of happens, right? Your eye kind of goes here, and you can even go down to the lower one. But you kind of want to frame things and arrange your set so that it encourages the viewer to come to you. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Is it necessary to always have the person in the center of the screen, or is it all right to have the person on one side and have 2/3 looking at the background, or does it matter, or is there a best practice?
Okay, so
or
it does in a sense matter. Like if we acknowledge that everything we experience has an impact on us, then it does matter. But in terms of there being a hard and fast rule, there isn't, right? So the way I like to approach it when I get on camera, like I had fun setting up this, right?
Yeah. Cool.
I pulled my computer over here and I thought, oh, this would be kind of nice, to welcome people into this particular angle of my little studio. And I thought, oh, that line isn't quite, perpendicular, but who cares, And then I put some light over here that was kind of warm and some cold light someplace else. And I realized, hey, I could do this over here, right, against this, and I'm kind of framed by the gray. Or I could go, over here and kind of be on the edge, you know what I mean, and create like a dynamic kind of duality, right? If you're making a video, of course, this could be where the text goes, if you want to do it that way. So it's what's fun, the way I like to approach it again is let's have fun decorating our space, because people are coming over. You know what I mean? And let's bring them into a space that's kind of visually kind of exciting, you know what I mean? Because it's fun, But honestly, those feelings aren't any different than saying, let's throw a party, on this theme, if that makes sense. It doesn't have anything to do, at least it doesn't for me, in terms of getting it right or, doing something to anybody. It's more like, just fun, so that's how I approach it.
Well, that's a lovely way to think about it, because if we go into creating our videos thinking we're going to have fun and enjoy it, then we display that. We show ourselves, we display it to our audience that we're enjoying what we're doing, and at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to help the viewer, isn't it?
It's a completely different way of approaching it, and I think it's just a huge relief. I mean, imagine approaching your videos like you're trying to get it right, I mean, how tiresome was that's like, you'd have to dull yourself up, when you're too worried about these things. It's like you never leave the house, you're just kind of, and the thing to know about making video is it's not an all or nothing thing, like if at first you can begin really simply, because it's going to evolve. Right. And you can have fun evolving it. That's really important for people to know, because some people, when they've seen my, videos, they've said, oh, wow, you must have the most amazing studio, and, everything looks so great. And my point, is, look, it doesn't matter whether you live in a hut or a mansion. You can still welcome people in with enormous hospitality, right? So, and that's really more a mindset than it is anything else. It has nothing to do with assets, and things will change over time. Whether my studio becomes any better or whether it becomes worse, I'll still be able to make videos where I'm welcoming people. And that's the most important thing. That's what I hope to do. So, for people who feel like this video thing is onerous, for whatever reason, whether it's they feel camera shy, or whether they feel they don't have the right equipment, or the right location, a good idea is just to relax with that stuff, because that's not really where it's at. Where it's at is welcoming people. That's really it, and being hospitable. and taking care of people.
Yeah.
If you can do a great job at that, then people are going to want to spend more time with you, and they're going to want to come back.
Yes.
And they're going to want to invite you over to their place.
Yeah.
And they'll get excited about having you over.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you're really going to reap the benefits of a personal connection with people, in which you really enjoy each other's company. So whether you're on camera or in live situations.
Oh, that's fantastic advice. To have fun with it and enjoy the process and help your audience enjoy what your topic is. That's an amazing way to look at it. Well, get up now, Dan.
I think it is. I mean, that's what, to me, it should, it should be a joy, and if it isn't a joy, you have to ask yourself why. Why isn't this joyful for me? What can I do to make this a more enjoyable experience? Because the more you enjoy it, the more you enjoy life, the more people enjoy spending time with you. The less you enjoy life. Nobody wants to spend time with somebody who isn't, like enjoying themselves. It's better to come back another day, when that's happening. So.
Well, the next question sort of is almost, I think you've almost answered it, but the question was, what makes a successful video? Is there any other aspects to a successful video? I mean, I love your idea of just enjoy the process and bring joy to the people you're talking to.
Well, I think that's the most important thing. I mean, we can talk about how much our videos engage other people, how much they lead them to act on certain ideas, and I think that's all true. I think video can do that, certainly, and there are a myriad number of ways of approaching people to get them to take action. You can use video in ways that aren't really generous and get them to do things. There are certainly people out there who have used video to engage in marketing practices that I don't agree with. So you kind of have to decide. This is what I like. What I like to do is I like to reflect. This is going to sound a little bit obscure, but I'm just going to say it. So one thing that's good to do, I think, in relationship to business, in relationship to creating video, is it's a good idea to reflect on what your values are. And what I mean by that is to reflect on your thoughts on how best to live, right? And then to apply those ideas that you come up with to your videos. Right. Okay, so that's what I do, and I like to stay in touch with that because it's kind of like a touchstone for me. Yes. It's like, all right, so there are certain things that I believe in, and that's the way I'm going to operate. Yeah. And I'm fond of the things that I believe in. Yeah. But I can see how somebody could have a completely different point of view, and it would still work. Yes. All right. So let's say that somebody had the view of, I believe it's important to make money, and I'm gonna use people to make money, and my videos are gonna be about that, right? Yeah. There are people like that, yes. And because they've really connected with those feelings, they don't have that kind of self-consciousness on camera that others might have. They're in a predatory kind of mode. They've connected with these feelings, and they're in tune with those. Yeah. So that we see that too, right? Yeah. That comes from a connection, right, to feelings that are deep inside, and they bring that to their work. Yes. You can do the same thing with an idea that you want to help people, that you want to support people, that you want to improve people's lives, right? Yeah. Once you do that, once you've connected with what your value is, right? Yes. With your way to best live, then it will inform, your on-camera delivery, your on-camera performance, the kinds of videos that you make, the way that the kind of reality that you welcome people into. So this is a good thing to do. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but it's a good thing to go back to the core values and say, this is who I am as a person. This is what I believe in. This is where I'm coming from, and I'm ready to stand behind it. Once you do that, again, you're taking steps to overcoming any kind of shyness. You know what I mean? To your communications, with people, because you feel really connected with who you are.
Yeah. Well, that comes back to your personal branding, doesn't it? That really is about who you are and what you stand for.
Yeah, I think so. You do see a lot of people who try to get the right brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They think more in terms of what impact this will have on other people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Again, they're thinking about their brand doing something to other people. That puts a lot of weight, on the brand. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That puts a lot of weight on it. But I do understand that makes sense in a way. You know what I mean? You want to, again, I have to come back to this idea of welcoming people.
Yeah.
Like when we paint, our walls, you have that wall back there. It looks, from in this light, it looks like it's a soft, a pale gray blue in this light, right? Yeah. And I'm not sure exactly what color it is, but I'm sure that, when you painted that, you weren't thinking, I'll paint it this color so people will think this about me. It's like, this color brings me joy, and this is who I am, you know what I mean? And I'm comfortable, you know what I mean, having you over. Yeah. That's a different way of going about it, Yeah.
Oh, I just love it. I love this approach, Dan, because it means the weight is sort of lifted, and you can be who you are, and bring that to the world. And when people are in business, then they are going along their passion. They're bringing their passion to the world, and so it's sort of like allowing more. It's wonderful. And Michael Port talks about being fully self-expressed. And this is what you're talking about, is about allowing that full self-expression as opposed to trying to conform to some sort of branding protocol or trying to be something that you're not.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think, that's a good way of looking at it, of being fully self-expressed. That's great. And then I think if you bring that together with your ideas of how best to live, right, that you have a wonderful opportunity, right, to engage with people. And the way I say how best to live is because I know from my years as a performing artist, as an actor, that being fully self-expressed was a positive thing, because you were going to be asked to perform different roles in different plays. And so you wanted to be open to the entire range of, human emotion within you. You didn't want anything to be held back, because you might be asked to bring that, right, in performance. In business, you have this being fully self-expressed. You might want to promote certain areas, right, of yourself when it comes to business, but you do want to have access to, to the entirety of who you are as a person. So I think that this has a way of doing that. It takes us out of ourselves, and it helps us be more connected to other people.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, that's such a wonderful approach. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. So the fifth question is one everyone gets asked, and then that's What is a business strategy that you recommend that's worked and you find success with?
To be real with people, to be honest and open, not to be afraid to show them who you are. Because I think that leads to real deep connections with, I guess, the people you're meant to be with.
Yes.
And to spend time with them, and as much time as you possibly can. And that means just engaging with them, like supporting their efforts, making videos, for your particular, niche, whatever that is, to see them in person, to try to spend as much time with them as possible. I think that may sound very simple. I guess what I'm saying, another version of me would say, have an email list. Would say, get some public speaking gigs, but I find this much more useful for me to think about it that way.
Yeah.
You wanna be, who you really are, share who you really are, help other people as much as possible, and spend time with them anytime you can.
Yes. Yeah. And that's building your tribe, isn't it? It's building the people around you who you're meant to serve, I suppose, in Book Yourself Solid terms. It's building those connections around you.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what it would accomplish.
Yeah.
I think what's important to one of the things that's lovely about video is that when people look at videos, I think they're seeking a personal connection. They're seeking identification.
Yeah.
So we try to identify people that we have something in common with. We look for compatibilities as we're looking at video.
Yes.
And so you want to when you're on camera, you want to be really who you are.
Yeah.
So that you enable or allow people to find those compatibilities with you.
Yeah.
So that they know, hey, this is my kind of person, and this is somebody I'd like to do business with, let's say, or like to spend time with, or somebody I could help, or somebody who could really help me.
Yes.
Because the world of business, from what I can see, thrives on these connections, on deep connections.
Yeah.
So it's imperative, that we do what we can to bring ourselves on camera.
Fantastic. Wow. Thank you so much. Now, to finish, Dan, you are preparing or have an online program about creating video for the film practice. Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, the film practice began as a place where actors and entrepreneurs can practice being on camera using video, for their endeavors.
Yeah.
So when it comes to working with entrepreneurs, what I do is I teach workshops. The workshop is called the Film Practice, and we look at on-camera presence and performance, authenticity. We look at the technical aspects of making videos that will be very welcoming, for our audience. That has to do with cameras and lenses and lights and settings and editing and to try to create a tactile experience for the audience. And then we also look at how to best share videos, which would be how to market your videos. Yeah. What's the best way to reach people, with your videos? Yeah. That typically those workshops last a month, where we're making videos on a daily basis, and meeting on Zoom, and it's a lively group. There are lively conversations and a lively exploration. What's interesting about it is that everybody winds up coming to their own place with it. So there's no cookie cutter. Somebody might come on board who is an attorney and then you might have a philosopher,
Yeah.
who's writing a book, and then there might be a therapist, somebody who works, a massage therapist, or also, a psychotherapist, and business coaches. And so it's a variety of people who each wind up with their own kind of approach connected to these ideas of hospitality. It's a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it.
Fantastic. And you've got an online version?
That's what it is.
That's the online via Zoom. Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's an online version. So we share our videos on a private site, and we meet like we're meeting.
Yeah.
To discuss, and we have these daily interactions.
Yeah. It's interesting because you can, in the virtual world, in these Zoom calls or Skype calls, do work and do you can get a really personal connection and feel you do meet in the virtual room, but you do meet in a live environment. So it's really interesting how it works. It's just
I agree.
It's just
in a way, it's like immersion, language immersion. Where you're going to be making videos, and so you're online. That's it. So this is the way of communicating.
Yeah.
That's the way you're going to be doing it.
Yeah.
And that's lovely. I mean, it really does have a way of moving you ahead fast.
Yeah.
I also do like VIP type trainings where I'll go over, to people's places and help them set up their studios and their audio, so that it is reflective of what they want to do, because that can be a challenge.
Yeah.
And it's been fantastic fun, to do that.
Yeah. Well, Dan, thank you so much for your time. It's just been a real honour to have you here for the interview, and to get your input into how to improve our videos. I just think it's just such a wonderful way to actually just be yourself in front of the screen and bring your values to your audience. I think that's a fantastic approach.
Well, thanks, and thanks so much for having me, and best of luck, with your next offering.
Yes.
I'm sure it's going to be a huge success.
Yes. Well, in our program we take people into a beautiful new film studio, and in the morning we talk about presenting to camera. And we help them with their script, and then we go down into the film studio, and they get their scripts uploaded onto an auto cue, and then they get an opportunity to use an auto cue and learn that process, and then they create their video. And we have I work with a media skills professional, Tim Stackpole, and between us we help the presenter to build up their presentation skills so that they present with impact. So it's a big day. It's a big day. I call it a corporate photo shoot on steroids.
It would be.
It is. So it's lots of fun. And they leave with a video, which is fantastic. So yeah.
Super.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, and really appreciate all your advice.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you.
Okay, take care.